Hi everyone, this is Dr. Ernesto from AttaBoyCowBoy, and today I'm recording here in Santa Marta, Colombia, and I want to share this beautiful view with you as I talk about an alternative to Ozempic and Wegovy that is 8,000 times cheaper. Now, you've probably heard of those really popular weight loss drugs. They're talking a lot about it in social media. Movie stars are name dropping it. And over here where I typically live in Los Angeles, Hollywood area, it's very popular because it says that it helps you lose about 15% of your body weight. Now, most of the patients I've seen that have been taking it have been successful. Very minor side effects. Aside from the ones that the company mentions, like nausea or vomiting, most of the patients just tell me they get constipated or they feel like vomiting if they overeat, which can be a good thing because you don't want to eat too much. So it's very successful. The only problem is that it's very expensive. You inject yourself once a week and it costs about $2,000 a week. So you figure it's about $8,000 a month. Now, it's so popular that a lot of insurance carriers are starting to cover it because they figure out, they do calculations. They figure out that it's cheaper to have someone on insurance that loses weight and doesn't develop diabetes, high blood pressure, cholesterol, all these other things, versus not giving them something and then their weight blowing up. And they having more medical problems are more expensive to cover. So a lot of people are getting this drug and they're getting it covered or partially covered by the insurance. So much so that even family members of mine that are on Medi-Cal, which is the government insurance for poor people, are having it covered 100%. So that makes a big difference because if once you start bringing government money in, that changes things. That's a lot of cash going to Denmark. It's a lot of money for this company, this drug, and it's causing shortages. There isn't enough of it. So what if you don't have insurance? Or what if you have to pay for it? Or even if your copay is really high, you're gonna feel left out if you can't afford $8,000 a month. So I started doing some research on the drug, and I've been talking to patients about it for a while now. And I've actually discovered different alternatives. So I'm gonna share with you the most popular one that I suggest to people. And again, before you do anything, talk to your doctor. Don't do anything on your own because you can get sick. It could be drug interactions, depends on what things are going on in your medical history, etc. But when I was writing my weight loss book, over 250 ways to lose weight without diet and exercise, I figured out all sorts of ways to lose weight. A lot of those I use them myself to keep my weight in check. But the reality is that as you age, the metabolism starts slowing down, you make more and more adjustments, you cut out more cakes and, processed food and maybe things you normally would eat in more quantities. Maybe you increase your exercise a little bit. That only takes you so far. I started gaining maybe about 10 pounds. You can see here in this picture where I kind of started picking up a little weight. You can see it on my face, which was not cool. So I started researching metformin. Metformin is another diabetic drug. Remember, Ozempic and Wegovy is used for diabetics, but in the process, they discovered that it helps with weight loss, so now they use it for weight loss. The good thing is that in the US, good and bad, over 70% of adults are overweight in the United States. When you're overweight, you're considered pre-diabetic. When you're pre-diabetic, oftentimes your insurance will cover diabetic medications like Wegovy and Ozempic, but it'll also cover metformin, which is way cheaper. In fact, if you buy metformin at the inflated rip-off prices they charge in the US, rip-off taxpayers and the US government, it's about $600 a month, which is outrageous. Okay, it's a lot. It's still cheaper than the $8,000 you'd pay for Wegovy and Ozempic. However, I buy it in Tijuana, Mexico. Same stuff, I pay $1 a month. $1. That's why I say it's 8,000 times cheaper. I find it everywhere. Metformin is considered one of the top 5 medical miracle drugs, okay? It's super cheap, it's readily available, and super safe. It's one of the safest things you could use. Let me give you a little background on it. They discovered it over 100 years ago in France. They made out of lilacs, those beautiful violet, purple, blue flowers that France is synonymous with. And it's had multiple uses over the years, but predominantly, originally it was made to stimulate goats to make more milk, they can make more goat cheese. But like many drugs, in the process of doing clinical trials, that's why clinical trials are great. Not only are they good for safety, but they also figure out different purposes and uses for drugs. Sometimes you'll get a drug and you'll say, okay, we're gonna use this for heart disease. But in the process of doing the medical trials, you figure out, hey, this is great for weight loss, or it fights this type of cancer, or it helps with, gastric reflux or whatever. So a lot of times drug companies will make one drug and they'll find out that that drug has multiple uses, which is good for the company because then they'll figure out multiple streams of income. Thing is, they have to do multiple clinical trials specifically that dedicated to those areas. But that takes time, and that's why the government gives pharmaceutical companies a patent period, which is about 20 years. And that allows them to recover the cost of the drugs they're making before it goes to generics and the price drops through the floor and it gets really cheap. So metformin is really cheap because it's old. It's been around for a long time. In fact, it was actually approved in 1994 in the United States. Remember, they discovered it like in the 1920s, but it's went through a lot of trials and they've used it for different things. Not until, the 90s they figure out, hey, this is probably something we can use for obesity as people gotten heavier. And it's worked really well. So well that in my case, my baseline weight was around 210 pounds. If I ate too much cake or went to many parties, I'd probably go up to about 215. If I cut out the cake and maybe worked a little harder, I went down to about 205, but that's it. It's still a little bit too much for me. But once I started taking metformin, it dropped my new baseline down to 200. Which is good, 10 pounds less. That's a big difference for someone to go from 210 to about 200. That's more than 5%. That's a lot. Now, you can lose more. I've heard other people losing much more weight. And again, it's not meant for weight loss, it's meant for diabetes, but it helps stabilize your blood sugar. So what does that do? It decreases my hunger. I'm not hungry. I don't feel like eating. And when I eat, I get full faster, which is great. So now my new baseline is 200. And if I try a little harder, I go down to 195, which is really good. That's like the weight I was in high school. And it costs pennies compared to Ozempic and Wegovy. And I have another benefit. The reason I came across that drug is when I was researching for my book I just published recently, the Hardcore program, I was trying to figure out how to optimize your physical, intellectual, and spiritual capabilities. And I came across a really interesting researcher who's world famous. He's the leading expert in anti-aging, Dr. David Sinclair from Harvard. He's done a lot of research on metformin. You can read a lot of his published work. And there's a lot of other researchers also I've read that also have research on it. And they found that metformin is one of the best anti-aging drugs. And that's one of the predominant reasons why I started using it. And as a side effect, I started losing the weight. And I started putting it together and I said, hey, you know what? If you use Ozempic and Wegovy, you're going to lose weight, which is also anti-aging. Because the less weight you carry, the less work you do, the slower you age. That's just the way it works, okay? Metformin does the same thing, but it's not just a collateral thing where you're getting it as a benefit. Okay, I lost some weight, so I'm gonna age slower. No, it actually slows the aging of cells. It causes there's multiple cellular benefits to slowing down aging. So it's specifically being researched now for anti-aging. So soon you're gonna see on the market metformin being sold as an anti-aging drug. I'm already taking it. I've been taking it for a while. I have it in my book, How to Build a Supplement Stack. I have my supplement stack, what I use exactly, my Kirkland stack, etc. So it's something that you could look into. It's something that many insurances will cover, and there's virtually no side effects. It does, of course, list some side effects. I've never met a patient that's telling me, Doc, I have a side effect from this metformin. I've never personally experienced anything. Like I said, with Ozempic and Wegovy, very mild. I've had patients tell me constipation. They feel like vomiting. That's about it. With metformin, there are side effects. Basically the same thing, and nausea, but you don't really hear it very often. It's pretty safe, very, very effective, and it's easily accessible. And if you have any kind of insurance, they'll most likely cover it if you're overweight because you're considered, again, pre-diabetic. So you can mention to your doctor that you want to take it for your pre-diabetes. So again, thank you for listening. I hope that helps. And from Santa Marta, Colombia, this is Dr. Ernesto. Thank you and goodbye.